Hey everyone, as ever, I have been given the nudge by the universe to come and make a video. And the theme today seems to be a pleasant theme for once, all about glimpsing heaven on earth, glimpsing moments of bliss, feeling like we have actually entered a whole new reality, a whole new realm. And it feels as though it's been a really long time in the coming. I just spent a blissful few days in Mistley in Witchfinder General Country in the east of England in Essex. It's 1919 on my clock as I record this, which is really interesting. And I partook in a really beautiful, just a small, intimate solstice ceremony with a group of women, very small group of women, close friends and friends of friends. And we gathered around the tree, old Knobley, or Mr. Knobley, the tree where women very famously hid inside the trunk of this huge oak tree from Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. And there was a real change in the air. The last time I visited that place, I had some really powerful sort of past life, other lifetime memories that were quite traumatic, and I was picking up on a lot of the imprints of the energy of what had historically gone on in that region before. There was quite a lot of spirit release. There was a lot of sort of clearing old imprints from the land. But this time around, we really felt like it was kind of flipped. It was like we were anchoring in much more of the new earth frequencies and much more of the heaven on earth program and energies that we've been building towards for such a long time. And we actually felt really tangible evidence of that. We walked around the tree. I had my drum. We sang. We put beautiful roses and flowers in the tree, and we honored all of the ancestors, and particularly the wise women who had gone before us. And we asked for, the return to the balance of the masculine and feminine, and for all on this planet, and love for all on this planet. And afterwards, we went for dinner at the Mistley Thorn, which had previously been the Witchfinder General's home. And it really felt like a reclaiming of that space. And we had actually the most incredible time. And there are only four of us that managed to go to dinner, but we spoke about it afterwards. We really felt like the whole day and the whole evening was just blissful. It was serene, it flowed. It really felt like this is what it's all about, this connection, this community, this, no topic of conversation off limits, no judgment of each other, just living in pure unconditional love, sharing and growing together and honoring each other, and no contest, no competition, no weirdness, just pure connection and love and honoring. And I've had quite a few moments of this recently, and it really feels like this whole new frequency, this new consciousness is starting to peek through the cracks, peep its head above the parapet. So you might just find that you catch yourself having these moments of, oh, everything's good, everything's okay, it's all bliss, it's all wonderful. And yet, there seems to be also, at other times, this real a stretching out of duality, a feeling of disconnect, really, with certain people. And, many of us have known about a kind of a feeling of a split in the collective for quite some time. That really started in the pandemic in earnest. And you might even be seeing it and feeling it within your relationships with very close partners, friends, and family. But the invitation here is to just hold to your course, hold to your new footing, your grounding in the new earth, and just to trust, just to stay in trust. There are many that are kind of almost clinging to the old way of being, And it is hard to make that leap, to make that transition into a new way of being, a new level of consciousness, to come out of the grooves that we have sort of carved ourselves into. It's really hard to change direction or change track when you're so in your habits. And many of us are so in our habits. And I know that when you're conscious of a habit that's not feeling like it's necessarily a healthy habit or a good habit, when you're conscious of that and you make an earnest effort to come out of it, it does take work. It can take work. And a lot of these habits are so in our muscle memory. And letting go is what the angels and the guides are talking to me about today. What is it that you need to let go of through unconditional love, through gentle surrender, through a kind of loving acceptance, in order to really, really live your bliss, in order to live your happiness? Some of us are letting go of addictions or habits. Some of us are letting go of people, relationships. Some of us are just letting go of old programming and thought processes. Some of us are letting go of, and I think this one is quite powerful in the collective, letting go of our old stories, the old stories of our trauma, the stories of pain that we cling to as a kind of a distorted life raft, if you will. What old stories of pain or trauma have you been repeatedly telling yourself or living out? And where might you be ready to let that go and give yourself permission to experience that level of bliss or the level of joy? And I feel like there's definitely this part of myself that for such a long time hasn't trusted in the joy, because the joy has felt, I guess, a bit few and far between in recent years. And for those of us really consciously doing the work to clear, and the guides are using the word revolutionize our lives, revolutionize and evolutionize our lives and the course of our lives, and move against the grain of what has so long played out on this planet. It has felt like a tough old slog. It's felt like a tough old slog. And I have, many clients and friends and colleagues, and many of these happen to be women. Don't necessarily know why that is. Maybe because there has been a determined witch hunt against women for such a long time. But that feeling of, I'm doing this all on my own, and nobody sees me, nobody has my back, nobody understands where I'm coming from, and that feeling of knowing that you're witnessing a level of truth that others maybe haven't been able to see or still can't yet see. It's a very lonely feeling. And it's a very strange feeling. And at times when you see truth play out, it can make you feel like you're going a bit nuts. And the key here is really just grounding into your own frequency, your own reality, your own truth, and your own bliss, your own joy, your own loves and wants, and your own desires, and saying yes to the things that light you up, even if nobody else agrees with what you're doing, what you're thinking, your way of being. Finding those moments of bliss within, and the simple things that really do bring you joy, is often the stuff that moves mountains. I just want to pull us a card, and I pulled out Archangel Fire Oracle today just to see where the guidance is with this. And as always, these are just little thoughts that I'm sort of mulling over in my head. And the first card to flip out is the Twin Erin, but this is the Blind Justice card. This is, again, where I was saying the other day, in the power of trust, of not really knowing how you're going to get through something, but trusting that you're going to get through it. There's something about this card tonight, though, that I've noticed that is different, and it's something that I never really focused on before, is I'm really drawn to the golden wheat sheaf here and the woman holding it, which she reminds me a lot of Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. There's something about the fact that she's holding this wheat sheaf, but she's blindfolded, and so the message coming through feels like, what gold, what treasure are you already holding that you're not noticing? Where are you not seeing your wealth? Where are you not feeling grateful for what you have right in front of you? Are you not seeing something? Are you not seeing someone? And it's really interesting to me that this is a man and a woman. They are both holding the scales. It's a message of justice and balance, the balance of all things. He's holding the sword, but he's not holding it up to fight. He's holding it as though he's drawing a line in the sand, as though it's like, enough, the buck stops here. I'm not going any further. I'm standing in my truth. And the sword looking like a T, looking like a capital T, is like, I'm going to stand here. I'm going to hold this truth, and I'm not budging from my justice, my integrity, my truth, from who I am. I'm not budging from who I am. But she's not budging from her abundance, from her values, is what I get in this. She's not budging from her values. But somewhere there's a balance, there's a meeting, there's a justice in the middle of this, and the heart is being weighed against a feather. So it's like this meeting of minds, the balance of the masculine and feminine within, the balance of power being restored to the planet. And what I get from this card is that the feminine is actually reclaiming her place as a value, as a treasure, as gold within our political systems, within our justice systems, within all the systems on our planet, and within our daily waking lives. And it's interesting to me that we have a man and a woman here, and they're both dressed in white, which makes me think of a wedding. And I also think of marriage as an institution, the institutions that have historically been meant to represent love, and how often they do. Often within these old kind of patriarchal, archaic structures can leave people feeling trapped or disempowered, and how it hasn't always been a balance. And if we remember, the original intention behind marriage was sacred union, but that sacred union was meant to reflect our inner sacred union of the two polarities coming together within us to birth the Holy Child, to come back into our own remembrance of our divinity. But I'm seeing this play out in more than just marriage. There's a message here about contracts, about employment, about work, about money, and where the balance is being restored into all systems. And again, I'm drawn to the gold, to the wheat, to the harvest, to the economy, to finances. There's a lot going on here on our planet where the heart is being put back into the finances, where the goddess is being put back into the systems, where in business, all over the planet, if people don't start acting from the heart, those businesses are going to collapse. And I've seen so much evidence of it. I have left jobs and been moved on from jobs in companies which have then folded, mainly because they lost their way, they lost their vision, they lost the point for why they did the work in the first place, and were focusing too much on money, on greed, on power, and not enough on having a positive message, or offering a service, or helping the collective. Businesses are here to offer a service. And where are we losing our way in terms of our structures and our systems? And there's a lot of work that needs to be done on these systems. I'm doing a lot of work on these systems behind the scenes, personally, myself, in my daily life, but also through my World Angel group. And there's going to be more to come. So the gold and the soul and the heart is on the side here of the feminine, and the heart coming back into these systems. Also, I'm really drawn to the feather, which reminds me of the quill and the pen. So putting the heart back into the message of all of our systems. What message are we sending out to the world through our systems? There's such a big message of justice starting to shine through, justice and balance starting to shine through on this planet. And also they're talking to me about such a reshuffling of relationships going on at the moment, of, all kinds of relationships, this kind of need to clear clutter, let go of, cut out the old dead wood, reshuffle our lives, really think about what the next steps are. And again, there is no pressure to make any decisions any which way in your life. You may feel that in order to make the right decision, you need to wait things out a little bit longer. But pretty soon, there's going to be a real beautiful emergence of a new beginning. It's almost like I feel this like a pregnant pause, a real pregnancy happening. It's like certain things need to gestate before they can spring to life, and sometimes our psyche and our bodies know when change is coming. I remember in 2019, before the pandemic hit, I started to have these crazy unexplained panic attacks through my body, like shock waves of something that was coming, and I had no idea. I knew there was a big change coming. I didn't know what package it was coming in. And my body was telling me something was up before it actually happened, a long time before it actually happened, up to a year before it actually happened. And I'm seeing a lot of other people, especially women, feeling a lot of these panic attacks and shock waves, and not knowing what to do with it, almost like they're sensing some energy coming in. But the guidance is not to focus on fear, not to feel like, oh God, I'm panicking because this is something new and unfamiliar coming in, is to flip it and see it as something exciting. What you're really feeling is a kind of trepidation. And trepidation can actually be from something great, from something good. It can be something so immensely amazing that maybe it does frighten you a little, but it's letting go of that safe shore and having the courage to go, I'll go where my soul leads. I'll go where my soul leads. And here's the pregnancy. Beautiful Mary Magdalene representing Sophia energy, and the rose blooming at her heart. And she's holding the skull and the anointing oils, but she also has the chalice wellspring here. So something is dying away so that it can spring to new life. And she's heavily pregnant in the image. New life is here if you choose to grab it, if you choose to see it where it shows up. And finally, we have Jophiel, our joy. This is the sun shining on us, new life, all the butterflies emerging from the cocoon. I just get, I feel like going to a festival when I see this card. Music and dancing and singing and joy. And where can you put more spring into your step? I'm also really drawn to all the dandelions around her feet. This is a card of wish fulfillment. And the yellow is like, I just hear this message of don't despair. We might be seeing all these old systems falling apart, but something is gestating, and soon enough it's going to be out in the light of day. There's all this positive change coming on a collective level, but also on a really, really personal level. And, getting also, for some of you, this might even be a physical pregnancy. So, let me just see how it plays out. I've got 2 new babies arriving in my family this year. I've got a new niece and a new nephew arriving, which is highly, highly exciting. So there's all this new potential. But there's also there is a lot of dropping away. There is a lot of dying away. Some of us have lost many loved ones through actual physical death, through passing through the death gateway. And so we need to honor those souls that have gone before us, but we also need to acknowledge that many of them are needed on the other side. Here we go again. Barakiel, the angel of blessing, and she's carrying the bread basket, so more abundance, and she's carrying the baby. So it's kind of, I get the church below her. She's risen above the church. She's rising above those institutions. She's carving her own path. She carries her blessings with her, and she's nourishing her own soul, and she's heading off to a bright new future. There's a real gentleness in this card, you know. Where can you kind of hold yourself to your own breast and nourish yourself from within? And I just hear no more apologies, no more apologies for being who you are, being who you need to be, standing your ground. I'm also really drawn to the sunflowers on her dress. And it feels like she's left the temple, she's left the church. She's not part of any of those institutions. She's stepped onto a new timeline and a new pathway. And this is really what I'm experiencing now, like this whole new timeline, this whole new path, this whole new life, this whole new me, and I feel a whole new version of me that is, in a way, really foreign from who I thought I was for a long time, but also really familiar and really refreshing. And yeah, no bullshit. Like, on one level, we can't hide from ourselves anymore, but that can feel scary because many of us have hidden behind these facades, and whether those facades are institutions or whether they're kind of energetic masks that we've put up, or maybe even personas, roles that we play in different scenarios. It's really interesting to me. Something that's been coming through, which is a lovely practice to get into, which has come through for a few people this week, is again, get out in nature. But ask yourself who you are when you are alone in nature or alone in your own safe space. Perhaps it's a safe space that you go to in your mind. Who are you when you are alone and you feel safe and you're allowed to be absolutely you? Who are you when you are you? And who are you when you are you alone compared to who are you in relationship? And the message and the invitation here is just to observe yourself within relationship, within all your relationships. How do you feel in relationship to certain people, to certain scenarios? How do you feel in relationship to money and abundance? How do you feel in relationship to home? And if you find that you don't feel safe at home, or there's something uncomfortable about home for you, ask yourself if that is to do with your current home and where you live, with the people that you live with, or is it to do with the concept of home in general? And only you will really know, because if you've never felt safe at home, regardless of where you've moved to, you'll know if it's home in general. But we're here to anchor that feeling of home here, right here where we stand. So you can just do a little process of, what does home feel like to me? What does the idea of home feel like to me? What would it feel like to be 100% safe and secure in my own home? See if that brings up any resistance to you. If home was another place, where would that be? and call that place to you, call that energy to you. For some of you, it could be a star or another dimension. Some of you, it might be, I come from another country. I live on the other side of the world from where I grew up. Sometimes I need to bring the energy of Australia and my hometown and anchor it here. Just bring that energy here. Claim your home where you stand. It's like carrying your home on your back. And if you want to feel like you're more of yourself, regardless of the environment or the situation or the relationship you find yourself in, it's a lovely idea to just go out in nature, walk in nature, ask yourself, who am I when I'm alone? Who am I? Who would I be? What are my loves? What are my desires? What are my urges? What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What's my natural state of being? And then call that energy and bring that energy back with you. And just set the intention to infuse that energy into whatever relationship, scenario, or space you find yourself in. If you find yourself, for example, in a heated discussion with somebody, how can you imagine yourself back in nature and just tell the body to be calm, tell the body that it's okay for you to be you and to have your opinions and to hold your ground like a beautiful golden oak tree, really stable on the earth. And this is a really lovely practice to get into, especially while we're kind of barraged by other people's emotions. And I've said it before, we are becoming telepathic, and the first place that begins is in our emotional body. We're feeling each other, and so many of us are now hearing each other, dreaming of each other, connecting with each other. And one of the reasons why I brought out the Archangel Alchemy Healing Book and the Archangel and the Water Alchemy Oracle is to help with this emotional mastery. And in the Archangel Alchemy book, there's a wonderful process with the trees, the tree wisdom. And Water Alchemy really takes us on a deep dive through our emotions, our desires, our emotional intelligence, just so we can find our stable anchor point in the midst of all of this evolutionary unfoldment. I'll say that. It makes it sound a lot smoother than it feels a lot of the time. So finding your anchor point, bringing your home here. And then once you come into that beautiful state of centeredness and give yourself full permission to be who you are, you may find that certain people move out of your life, but you will also find that you will be seeing clearly the kinds of relationships, situations, scenarios, and people who really match your vibration. And it's okay to say yes to those who resonate with you and to say no thank you to those situations, people, and relationships who don't. And that may sound harsh because we've been so conditioned into people pleasing on this planet that we feel like, oh, we've got to stay, in touch with this person and that person because we've known them forever. But if being in relationship with somebody is causing you more distress or more hurt or more pain, then bliss, then joy, then ease, then flow, then only you can really make the decision as to whether or not you're going to stay or go. But just know that the invitation is to do whatever you need to do through love. And sometimes you can just surrender it, just hand it up to the divine, and just ask for the way forward to be shown to you. If it feels overwhelming, if decisions feel difficult, I ask the higher self, the divine, to show me the new pathway, to show me the door that will help me step beyond all of this emotional turmoil. Because it can feel like we're in a washing machine some of the time. So the invitation, again, is to invite more bliss, more flow, more ease, and just to observe where that is showing up for you and to say yes to it. And the more you say yes to it, the more of those situations and experiences are going to show up as you keep following your heart, following the flow. If you feel like saying yes to an invitation, then say yes. If you feel like saying no to an invitation, then say no. Just follow the feeling. So again, a couple of themes going on there: bliss, heaven on earth, bringing your home here, anchoring your home here, really just sitting back and observing the duality, really seeing, right, what's for me and what's not for me, what's resonating with me and what isn't, and the invitation just to let yourself follow those feelings and imagine where they might lead you. Have a beautiful day.